All right. Welcome to another episode of the Placing People First podcast. Before we meet today's guest, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Bridging the Gap Recruitment. BTG offers recruiting and executive search services. Their team of recruiters have decades of experience with thousands of placements. They're always recruiting. If you're an employer, they may have qualified candidates ready for placement. And if you're looking for a position, make sure to send them your resume and they will actively market you to potential companies. They also offer a 7-day guarantee. They guarantee to have a qualified candidate to you in 7 days, or you save 50% on the placement fee. You can find more about them at bridgingthegapus.com. And with that, let's jump straight in. Luca is today's guest. And Luca, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Jurny. And in short, we help automate Airbnbs and hotels.
Love it, man. So give me, I know we just talked a little about your journey, and I think if we can summarize that, it gives people perspective of how you've gotten to where you are. So tell me about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I'm originally from Italy. I was born and raised there. I moved here when I was 21, and that was a little bit over 13 years ago. Moved to LA, still live here. A couple of years after I moved here, I had a business idea because I realized that a lot of luxury rentals for short-term rentals were done through brokers. This was like early, before Airbnb was yet a thing, and a lot of owners knew how to list properties in themselves. And so I decided to launch a landing page for luxury villas here in LA. That landing page did $1.2 million in revenue. It was like our arbitrage business. So short-lived business, but that definitely got me hooked into the industry. From there, I realized that I created a pretty good network with owners. And so I decided to start managing properties for them. I grew that management company from a handful of units all the way to 300 units. In the process of doing so, I realized that technologies were a fundamental piece for scalability and profitability in hospitality. And so we really doubled down on technologies and technology development. And we became very much of an expert on the technology side. And one of the biggest problems that we encounter is the fact that actually a lot of these technologies don't work well with one another. And we were one of the few that were able to make them work well together. So we realized that was an even bigger opportunity than becoming a management company. And we could actually allow a lot of other management companies accessing this technology and become a lot more profitable and a lot more automated than they are today, and probably prevent them from going through the same journey and the same issues that we went through to try to put these technologies together.
That's awesome. And I know we talked about it offline, but I love that journey because it shows like, hey, I like this industry and I've qualified that I'm interested. I'm going to go into this because my network and database support it. And then you identified that like, well, wait a second, this is the piece that's actually completely broken. How do we fix that? Not just for ourselves, but how do we fix it for the whole community? So let's talk people. That's the focus here. And it's interesting. I have a question. So you were management, which is one people skill set. And then you went into technology, which is a totally different people skill set.
100%.
So yeah. So how has recruiting team members changed as you're making that transition?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I've not been asked a question before. And it's very interesting because some people's skill translating to the new company, but some didn't, right? So I would say probably a good 40% of the company really did well in the transformation. And I think one of the most important pieces that technology is really disrupting a lot of industry, and it's actually changing the career of a lot of people, right? So a lot of jobs are going to disappear, but it doesn't mean that these people are not going to have a job, right? You look at even during the Industrial Revolution, actually, employment is highest right now in the U.S. almost that it's ever been, and the reason is because there are a lot more jobs. They're just different jobs, and so that's what I notice also in our company. You need, even if the technology is good, even if you have like we were talking before a recording about ChatGPT, right? Even if you start having this technology, but there needs to be someone who trains this technology and helps develop this technology for very specific use cases. And the people who are going to be able to do that are the people with the most experience within that sector. So for us, for instance, because we were all with a huge background on property management, we were able to develop a very good tech stack for people in the property management space because we had a lot of experience. So we knew exactly what the product needed to look like and what problems we needed to fix. And if I didn't have all this team, all these people with a lot of experience and sometimes decades of experience in the industry, we would have not been successful at building the products the way we did. And I think that's the fundamental piece and what makes really Jurny different from a lot of other softwares out there.
Well, and I love that. And I love that you talk about the transition. So can you give me a story of one of your team members who transitioned really well? Like they've become a rock star in the new company, and just kind of talk us through like why you think that worked and some lessons that might be learned there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a few that quite many actually translating into being really good at in the new position. But our VP of Ops, our Director of Operations, like we had quite a few roles that were pretty successful. And I think the differentiator between the ones that were successful and the one that were not is that the one that were successful are people they love to challenge themselves. They're embrace change and embrace challenges. Those are the people that successfully shift into the new business. Then you have people that came maybe from some, and I hate to say this, but schools sometimes they give you this wrong approach, I think, to life, which is very much schematic and say this is how things are, and they're not going to change because in school there's a right or wrong answer only, and the right or wrong answer is based on whatever that book said, right? And that's not how it is going to be in the future. That's not how entrepreneurship has ever been. And that's especially how many jobs are not going to be. Things are going to change. And so if you're very strict on your protocols and how things have been done a certain kind of way, you might be great at your current position, amazing, but you're not going to be great to adapt to this new environment, especially if the company shifts into a more technology approach.
I think it's a great takeaway. And there's a lot of businesses being impacted that, right? Acquisition, mergers, tech changes, industry changes, adding new products. I talked to a guy that's going from the oil industry to the lubricant industry, and some of his employees are like, we don't understand the pricing and the lingo and all right, well, you better start learning, right? Because exactly. It's a new vertical. And so it's awesome advice. And if you're listening to this and maybe you're that team member that's like, man, I feel unsettled in the company I'm at, you got to embrace that. Like you have to lean into it and say like, hey, where are we going? What's the future and vision look like? How do I fit? So I'd love to hear that your team did well. It probably speaks a lot to you as a leader as well.
Well, thank you. Yes. But I have a very specific use case, and then a person that was very involved in operation now leads our product development. And he loves doing that more than what he was doing before. So that's I think a great example of embracing change, because oftentimes leads to something better. Sorry, I wanted to add that to what you said.
Well, that's awesome, right? And that person may not know what the future looks like because in the new company, roles exist that didn't exist before. So that's awesome. As a leader, where do you find success? Where do you find success in retaining and motivating your team?
I think try to be as compassionate as possible, honestly. And it cannot be confused with weakness, right? You have to make sure nobody takes advantage of you, but you have to be as compassionate as possible at the same time. I mean, I don't know if it just happened, but I have never checked how many hours somebody works. I don't care. I only care about results. And I think there's two things. One is that, and the second one is to have a higher goal that is bigger than us. I said to everybody, I work for the company. We are all employees of the company. It doesn't matter what roles everybody has. These people have different roles. If at one point I become the biggest limitation for growth for the company, I'm the first one I'm okay to step down. That's the way you have to be okay with that, I think, as a leader, because leaders are, if you're a boss, doesn't mean you're a leader. Actually, so sometimes it's quite the opposite. So becoming humble about where you are and don't take that for granted is part of becoming compassionate, in my opinion, and understand that like any days could not be in that position. Also, other people could decide any days to leave you, and you are in that position simply because of other people. And that's a reality, because by ourselves we wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And that's the culture we have inside of our company, and every person that ever went against that culture actually got fired. And I think that's what makes our company having basically 100% retention, because we have no churn on our employees. Like everybody loves what they're doing.
Well, I love that. I love that you talk about, I think fiscally minded business owners or entrepreneurs, they might penny pinch those hours, right? And focus on that instead of focusing on impact. And so I
Correct.
love to hear that that's what you're focusing on, because I think there's a lot of value in that. Compassion, but not being run over. That was a great way to put that as well, right? Because you want to care about people, but at the same time, you got to have boundaries. So another great takeaway. Is all your team in an office, or do you have remote work? How's your structure?
Everybody's remote. Yeah, we have a pretty good sized team, and everybody works remote. And I think the only way it works is, again, we are result driven. If somebody can bring amazing value and amazing results in a very short period of time, I'll let them do it. But you know what? It never happens, because people get passionate about what they're doing. They get passionate about bringing results, and so they want to do more. I found myself, I don't know how many times telling people, what are you doing still up, still working? Go to sleep. It's like, you worked hard enough. Please take a break. I have people that don't want to take vacations. I'm like, you got to take a vacation. You got to take time off. So I found myself actually doing the opposite of a lot of times business owners do, which is like checking on people. I'm trying to tell people to take time off. Simultaneously, though, when we say, like, don't, make sure that people don't take advantage. If we find people that take advantage of the system, because the culture became like this, it became this culture in which people are not okay with people that don't pull their own weight,
Well, I
right?
say it's
And
instant
so,
accountability, right?
exactly, instant accountability. Everybody's doing the maximum they can. And again, as a leader, you have to work harder than everybody else, right? And that's what I do. Like, I do. I mean, it's hard to work harder than some of the people in our team, but that's at least what I try to do. The efforts is what matters, right? Trying to do the best you can and show that you're there. Show that if they need you for something, you're doing the best to make sure that their situation changes as fast as possible. Because at the end of the day, that's what a leader needs to be doing. It's being a support of the people that work with him in a project.
Love that. So it sounds like you have a team that's high passion, a lot of doers. How do you identify someone in the hiring process? Like, what's your process look like to find those people?
Yeah, that's a good question. We like referrals from other companies. We have a lot of people, they hear about the cultures, and we actually got quite a bit of inbounds for positions that we are even not looking for, but people are looking for. And that's kind of what we've been doing hiring, is it's just coming across great talent and not really looking for it. And when the talent comes across, we usually try to make the hire if we can, if there's the possibility of doing that. Obviously, we have a pretty comprehensive hiring process and quite a bit of interviews, but you see it when somebody shares the same culture or doesn't, right? When people really are motivated by creating these new things and the product. Number one thing is, I want people to buy into the product and into what we're doing, and that's, I think, number one thing that I look for.
Love that. Well, and I love that you're letting people raise their hand. I think a lot of companies close themselves off, right? And they're not open to that. But sometimes your best team members are that person that says, "Hey, I like what you're doing. How can I get involved?" And all of a sudden you're in this interview like, "Dang, this person is so passionate." And I may not have had an exact position, but we may be able to co-create a position or bring them in to do a couple things so they can find their path. So I like to hear that you're doing that. And that's a great takeaway for someone. If you're building a business, especially a hyper growth business, when good talent shows up, make sure you take time to talk.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So talk to me about conflict. This is always something we talk about. How do you deal with conflict and those tough conversations in your culture?
Yeah, I think on a scale, as a leader, you have to be able to listen as much as you can, get everybody's side. Unless I have a very clear picture of the situation, I usually don't address things right away. We had very little conflict, honestly, because we got rid of the toxic people. And sometimes you don't realize, but maybe 2 people out of a 50 people organization cause 90% of your issues. And that's what oftentimes you don't realize. And we realize that when we remove the toxic people, it doesn't matter how good they are at their job, honestly. And that's what people stick to, right? One of our best salespeople was very toxic, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, you're going to lose sales, yes. But you know what? 3 months after, we're now doing record sales. because the team is more united, works as a single team. Nobody's in toxic competition with one another, because competition is good, but what's not good? Toxic competition. And now that department does so much better than they ever done before. And again, it doesn't mean that that person is toxic everywhere else. It's just in your culture and organization. Toxicity doesn't mean that it's a bad person. It just means it doesn't fit your culture. And so when somebody has a different view or different vision of where you're going, it might be a right vision, but it's pulling a different direction than the rest of the team. And so it's going to cause friction. And that's very important, something to look out for.
I like that you talk about toxic to your culture, right? And you've mentioned culture a lot of times. And again, I appreciate that. How has your culture changed since you started this company to now? How have you molded that and continue to adjust it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Its culture is something that is hard to really define. It's more something that you live in. So you see it when you live and breathe it. But I think really like the idea of making sure that all the management is not controlling, and making sure that, for a couple of things. One, making sure you buy into the vision of the company, of where the company is going. Believing that automation is the future, believing that we are going to be changing things with technology for the better, and understanding that what we're working on is very much cutting edge. And you have to believe that we're at the forefront of innovations and disruption. You need to make sure that that drives you and motivates you every day, because that's what drives me and motivates me every day. And I want to make sure everybody around me feels the exact same. So that's, I think, piece one. Two, do it out of respect, respecting everybody else. There's no hierarchy in there is roles, not hierarchy. That's one role may lead another role, yes, but it's different than hierarchy. It's different than there's like a boss and then a person under and then a person under a person under. So if you think that way, number one, you're never going to listen. And that's, I think, that our third piece actually that is very important is listening. We listen to our customers. We listen to our employees. Really listen. Understand that the biggest advice might come from anyone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. Very successful people can give you a lot of great advice, 100%. But sometimes some of the best advice, I go on phone calls with customers that have sometimes one unit. So we have customers that make anywhere, sometimes $300,000 ARR, single customer. I can get on the phone with a customer who makes $3,000 ARR a year, which is nothing. But if they say, hey, I have some feedback for the company, would you jump on a 30-minute phone call? I say yes. Myself, I jump on a call. And that's the other thing. As a leader, you have to motivate people with example by giving an example on how to do it, right? And I said a lot of things. So as I said, the culture is made by a lot of different pieces, but I guess those are the most important ones. But I'm sure there's a lot more.
I would say every interview, it's funny, we end up with this section I tell people go back and listen to. That's the answer. You guys need to go back and listen to what was just said, because you're right. There was a lot in there, but there was a lot of passion and energy in there as well, right? Listening to everybody. That's huge. And just your culture of being aligned on mission, vision, and values, right? That's what drives culture, and you're chasing it and your hunger for that. And I can feel it and I love it. And that's awesome to hear. So let's talk about your company specifically. You are doing cutting edge stuff. So let our listeners know, like, what exactly are you doing? What services and who are you working with?
Yeah. Well, so our solution is for anybody that works in hospitality that manages guests. So sub 30 days rental mainly. So if you manage anything from hotels to Airbnbs, and when I say Airbnb, people think like the person that has one or two Airbnbs, but there's operators with tens of thousands of units. Some of the largest, the biggest most disruptive company in hospitalities are actually coming from the short-term rental space. And the reason why is because they're faster to adopt technologies. And so they can take assets that had this massive overheads and now start making them capital efficient and really maximize the revenue that they can generate from the same space. So our target is operators in the short-term rental space, again, because they're the quicker to adopt technologies. And we target anywhere that manage, even we have a new product we're launching that the reason of the name Jurny is for many reasons. But Jurny is adaptable specifically to hospitality, but in general as a business. But especially I think for management companies that they start, because all these major management companies I told you about, they start with a handful of units. And the pain to change system each time you go into from a handful of units to 20 units to 50 units to 100 units, each time you have to change system and readapt, it's absolutely extremely painful. So number one, we want it to be that system that doesn't matter if you manage a single Airbnb or 10,000 properties or 100,000 units, you want to utilize the same system and you want to make sure that systems grow with you. Two, we want to make sure that we make everything as accessible as possible. So the industry was built with this kind of old mentality of old systems that they're called PMS, property management system. And they created like a marketplace in which they integrate with hundreds of different solutions, sometimes thousands of different solutions. The problem of doing that is that each integration is not done in a deep level because they have to manage a thousand different ones. No tech stack of one customer is the same as one another. So each problem is unique to a specific customer. That's also pretty mind-blowing. And so all these issues, they just keep on existing and nobody's done anything to change them. That's how we change it. We say, hey, let's use the best providers in the industry, one per category instead of 100 per category. Let's create a very deep integrations and let's embed the entirety of the features inside our system and make sure that these systems communicate with one another as an interconnectivity platform and as a vertically integrated business. What that means is that now you can start from your own home tomorrow, a professional management company, even though you don't know much about technologies. Integrating a lock is 2 clicks. You can buy a Yale lock over the counter with a hub and enter the hub number inside of our system. The integration with Yale and SmartThings is already built. So you click 1 click. Now, automatically you have a lock that auto-generates codes every time I guess checks in and checks out. No integrations needed. You can click 1 button and activate pricing. Now you have dynamic pricing, so you can see pricing. And these are some of the examples, some of the tools that today, again, you have to get on the phone with 2 different vendors trying to make the integration. It's an absolute mess on how to do it. So you can get access to this platform and does it all. We're taking that a step further than what it is today. We are number one, making the basic system free, which is now there's several unicorns on just providing the basic system, the PMS side of things, the engine. They just provide that. You have to buy every additional tool from different vendors. We're giving you the basic system completely for free. So that's pretty game changing. So now you tomorrow can start playing with it already tomorrow without any capital commitment. And the second piece that we're doing that is also pretty game changing is that we are integrating some of the most advanced AI inside of our system. So even things like guest communications, like creating a list in descriptions, is all going to be fully automated. And AI is so capable. This is what's kind of scary in a way, but it's super cool in another way. And that's why I say like there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be disrupted. So it's very important to be in this age very quick at adapting, because things like customer support, now 1 agent is going to be able to do the same job that maybe 20 agents were able to do before. The need of front desk or a concierge, like, I mean, think about what does a front desk do? It checks you in. That can be done now fully automated. And even if you have questions within your own check-in or you want to do any upsell, the AI can do that. You get locked out because the lock doesn't work, the AI itself can verify you on a chat and open the door for you remotely. That's some of the capability of things that we start seeing and doing. Right now, it's complete private beta of the AI aspect of it, but just in the past couple of weeks, some of the biggest innovations in AI arrived, and it's about to disrupt many industry. And we hope we are going to be the leaders in disruption in the hospitality industry.
I love that. There's so many takeaways there. The scalability, I think, is really interesting for SaaS business owners. I think it's really interesting to look at the scalability of your product. And I love that you're accommodating the growth, right? Knowing, because you were on the journey, right? And you know, okay, hey, at 50 units, I've outgrown these cheaper options, but now I need this option, but maybe I don't need the best option. And all of a sudden you're sitting there like, well, great, now I got to go change everything again. If you guys have ever had a CRM or customer relationship management tool, like changing CRMs is just as painful. So use that as a guide. And then AI, I love that you talk about it. I know you mentioned Chat GPT. earlier. They're doing some amazing stuff. I know copywriting has completely changed marketing content. Like if you're in that space and that's all you do and you're not using tech, you probably don't have a job by the end of next year. So
Exactly. And I think it's very interesting though, like you said, if you're not using it, it doesn't mean your job is going to be gone. It means that the requirements of your job are going to dramatically change. That's what I think. The fact is that the output of what you can do is increasing with technology. It doesn't mean, so yeah, you do need less people to do the same job, but that means that now you can do more because there's so much more that can be done, right? And oftentimes we're limited by our time. Now, when you have more output, it means that you can actually provide more value. So it means that people can adapt to utilizing technology, and their advantage are the people that are going to create even more success and even more value for the companies that they can go work for.
and it's a retention tool for themselves, right? If I learn how
100%.
to 10x my production by using technology, you can't replace me, right? Because I'm the one who
Exactly.
learned how to leverage it and I've showed my value. But if you're the one that's sitting there going, oh, I'm still going to do it the old way, and at the same time one of your coworkers is 10x, like it's not gonna work out.
I think anybody that is not right now spending at least an hour a day on ChatGPT or just getting informed of what's happening in AI is making a big mistake. Let's put it that way.
Well, so it's so funny because I have like literally, I don't usually do it, right? This is the list. In the list, bullet point number 4, review Chat GPT every day.
Yeah.
Right. And so like we're staying up on it with our own marketing team. Like, well, what's changing? What are we doing? How can we integrate? What should our companies be doing with it? And same with this. When you bring up the conversation, I want to know what's going on so that I'm not sitting here like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So what else, before we transition to the last few questions, what else do you want people to know about your company, your journey, culture, best practices, anything we missed?
No, I think we cover quite a bit, and we're just excited what we're about to release. And really, if anybody is involved in hospitality in any way, shape, or form, even from a single Airbnb, stay tuned because there's a lot coming. We have a pretty big product release in Q1 of 2023. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Love it. What's the best way for people to interact with the company? And then how do you want people to interact with you?
We became pretty active with Twitter lately because we think there is going to be a lot of innovation coming from there. We weren't before, and LinkedIn, it's been our most active channel and will be continuing being our most active channel. So those two, and even our website, we're about to launch a new version of the website. There's you can subscribe to our newsletter there as well. Everything is spelled Jurny, like Jurny. You can find us there.
Perfect. I usually have 2 questions. I'm going to ask a bonus question because you weren't raised in the United States. You didn't grow up here. Let's talk about what's different and what you expected versus the reality of being an entrepreneur in the US. So what's kind of surprised you versus how you were raised? I think it's insightful for people to understand business isn't the same in every country.
No, it's not. And I want to really emphasize the fact that there's no other place on earth where there's that many opportunity as an entrepreneur as the United States, as of today. That may change, but as of today, if you want to be an innovator, disruptor, you want to raise venture capital, there's no other place on earth. If that's not what you want to do, there's other places, in my opinion, where maybe life is better, right? And that's what I think. You're never gonna find a perfect place to live. But for instance, I come from Italy, and I think Italy was an amazing place if you wanna live, work to live, and not live to work, right? US is live to work. I'm completely passionate about what I do, and so my life is work, and so I don't mind spending 10, 11 hours, sometimes weekends included, working on what I'm doing because I get excited. It's like I don't defer much what I'm doing from. I mean, sometimes you have to deal with issues, and as an entrepreneur, nobody likes that, right? Like dealing with painful stuff. But when I create new things, I enjoy that just as much as, actually more than even just like playing video games. Do whatever. If you're like, do whatever you want and do what you like, that's what it is, right? So that's important. But I think it's important to pay attention to that. I think US has a lot to bring when you want to be an entrepreneur, but you have some European countries that were probably really good places to live if the career is not your number one priority, but maybe family. And I mean, family is very important to me, don't get me wrong, but if that's just your priority, if you want to spend a lot more quality time, eat really good food and healthier food for much cheaper cost, making it a lot more accessible. Yeah. So it really depends on what you're looking for.
Love that. It's just a bonus question. I had to ask.
I appreciate that question.
the owner of Bridging the Gap, he's from South Africa, and so we always talk about like cultural differences and raising capital in the U.S. versus international, and there's so many differences. But you're right. I think when you look at that balance between work and life and what the priority is, I think that's what you see fluctuate in different countries. And so it's interesting that you brought that up. And then you're right, food quality and cost is definitely different. What food do you miss the most?
I think it's a combination. I'm completely passionate about food. So what I miss is not one particular thing, but it's the variety of food that you can have access to. US is great for international variety, but Italy is great for every place you go to. There's typical stuff from that place and things that you have never ate. And so, yeah, people are used to going to Italian restaurants and you have the same old menu of kind of almost like everywhere. But the reality is when you travel across Italy, there's so many. I have not tried all Italian specialties. So I can't pinpoint to one. It's just the trying of new things that I miss the most.
That's cool perspective. All right, so last two questions I always ask. First, if you could give your younger self advice or a lesson learned, what would that be?
Start earlier, reach out to every successful person you can online and ask them how they did it, and they will answer to you and they will give you advice, because there's a lot of people out there that actually love to help out young entrepreneurs. Start earlier
And ask for advice. And I love that, ask for advice. In the college presentations I give, that's the number one recommendation, is like find someone in the industry you want to go into and ask them. Because most of the time they'll either reply with something that's helpful, book, reading, education, or they'll take 15, 20, 30 minutes to hop on a Zoom or sit down with you and talk about it. And you're never going to learn more than that moment.
Could not agree more.
So talking about books, last question I always ask, what's a book recommendation, something you think everyone should read?
I like a lot of economy books. I know I'm into technologies, but yeah, there's a lot of books. I think this book is called like How Economy Grows and Crash. I think that's the name of the book. I don't remember the exact name. I love the hard things about the hard things. I like Never Split the Difference. That was a pretty good book. Yeah, those are some of the top. I usually listen to a lot of books, and I like audiobooks actually more than reading them. And then I kind of like forget, and then sometimes they just pop up again. I love podcasts in general. Also, I think there's a lot of information you can gather from podcasts and YouTube as well.
Love that. Well, there's some good takeaways. And then, yeah, however you're going to listen to it or read it, just seek more information. Luca, anything else you want to add? We've covered a lot of topics, and I appreciate your perspective on culture and people in the process. Anything else you want to say or add?
No, I think this was great. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Luca, thank you for making time. I know you're busy. I know you guys are hustling, and you're chasing that AI and that Q1 launch. So congrats on that. And we look forward to hearing more.
Likewise. Yeah.